Good morning and welcome to KU Padasala, the online platform of University of Kerala. Myself, Dr.S.M.Raffi, Associate Professor in Department of Aquatic Biology and Fisheries, University of Kerala. Today we will discuss about oceans, the present day problems oceans are facing, pollution and its possible solutions. As everyone knows that ocean serves as the savior of mankind and Mother Earth because of its wonderful and innumerable uses pertaining to ecological services, environmental services and economic services given to the earth and to the mankind. Though the ocean is so important, but it is in chaos now. We will split the 20 minutes talk into three main headings. One is the problems oceans facing, second is the solutions, and third is the conservation measures. So I said ocean is in chaos, and this slide exactly is taken from a well-founded journal called Science. This is reprinted from that, and the graph itself shows that nearly 40% of the world oceans are heavily affected by various sort of anthropogenic activities. So the major reasons why the ocean is in chaos or in problems are categorized as overexploitation, capture of brooders and juveniles, indiscriminate or illegal fishing, pollution, habitat destruction, climate change and global warming, increased occurrence of natural resources imposed by anthropogenic activities, and the introduction of invasive exotic species. Look, one by one, have a quick run. First is the overexploitation of the aquatic resources. If you look at the fisheries, the world fisheries, also the Indian fishery statistics, for the past 50 years, there was almost a six-fold increase in the fish catch. Does it mean that the fish population increased? No. The reason is that the modernization, the scientific developments and advancements in the field of fishing, like the fishing boats, fishing nets, so also the fishing operations and safety and communication devices in the sea, leads to increase in the fishing effort. The fishing time increases, leads to a six-fold increase in the fish catch. This went well till 2000. Later on, it shows a declining trend because of the overexploitation. The second major problem is the capture of brooders and juveniles. We are not allowing the juvenile fish to grow to its minimum legal size. We are not at all allowing the fish to breed or spawn at least in one's time. I repeat, at least once in its lifetime. Before that, we are catching the fish and we are decimating the population. To jeopardize the situation, there are other illegal practices like coastal trawling, dynamite fishing and illegal fishing practices, etc. pervert to the decimation of fishing population, so also the biodiversity in toto. The third most problem is the habitat destructions. Yes, the slide itself is answerable. Once we thought that the wetlands are the wastelands, but wetlands are no more the wastelands. They are the green lands of the city or the area. So the wetlands, mangroves, so also the coral reefs, which are the most productive ecosystems of marine and aquatic ecosystems, serves as the breeding, nursery ground and also feeding ground for a vast array of fishes that are surviving the ocean. But what we did is that we destructed the habitats in the way of mangrove deforestation, habitat destruction for industrialization, coastal urbanization, then for tourism, marine naval activities and transportation, and also for constructing industries near to the banks. We destroyed the habitat, which in turn affects the marine biodiversity. The fourth problem is the introduction of invasive alien species or exotic species which are not non-native to a particular area. So this can be categorized into two wings. One is intentionally we introduce, that is for the purpose of fishery or in regaining the fishery resources. One fish we introduce is a notorious fish called as the Oreochromis mozambicus or Oreochromis niloticus, which we commonly called as tilapia. We introduced from the Nile or the African rivers. This became a menace. More notorious is the introduction of the second fish called as, what you're seeing on the left is the African catfish called as Carius garipinus. And there is no native predators for these fishes, and their population increased widely, and they breed and they live in almost all the environments, starting from oligotrophic waters through all saline waters, and even in trash waters their population survived. This has become a menace. Not only fishes, what you're seeing as a beautiful picture is a velvet flower, the water hyacinth. Water hyacinth was introduced way back in the last part of the 18th century by Lady Hastings, the wife of Indian British Governor General Hastings, because she has a love and passion towards this flower. This became a menace now. This was mushroomed everywhere in our all water bodies, causing tremendous loss and damage to the fisheries, biodiversity, photosynthesis activity, marine productivity, so also the transportation. And now we are searching how to eradicate this, and still it's a huge Herculean task to eradicate these exotic plants. Not only this, the list itself shows that not only hypermia, there are other vast list of plant groups also we introduced, which are becoming a menace now. Of course, the most paramount one among the problem is the coastal and marine pollution, which I should discuss a bit. So based on the types of pollutants, it can be categorized as listed here as sediment pollution, heavy metal through pesticide, river runoff, energy in the form of thermal and light, chemicals, plastic, and the new generation pollution such as e-waste and biological and plastical pollutions. And look to the major pollutants. The slide itself is answerable, telling that 10 million tons of ballast water are covered with invasive, and with around 10 million gallons of sewage are annually we are dumping to the ocean, which leads to two processes called as this enters to the food chain from the lower water through the phytoplankton, zooplankton, and the higher trophic levels. It enters and it finally reaches to the human beings through the process of bioaccumulation and biomagnification. This simple graph itself shows that as it moves from water to the next level, that is phytoplankton, there is a 10,000-fold increase, and when it reaches the final scavengers, and now of course vultures population has declined to 99%, and now human beings are said to be the scavengers, and it becomes manifold. And we have classical example of aquatic marine pollution disasters like the Minamata happened in the Japan way back in 68 due to methyl mercury contaminations, and nearly leads to over 1,000 deaths, and even people are born with deformities till date, though it happens 100 years back. And it also enters through the water from a nearby factory. The methyl mercury, it was jeopardized as it moves from one trophic level to other. Similar, the dreadful disease is the cadmium poisoning in the Jingstu River, again in the Japan, leads to a disease called as ita, which is a very painful disease, leads to the bristling of the bones called as ouch disease. So marine pollution, the marine oil pollution is again stands the number one, which happens due to marine tanker accidents, so also collisions and other problems, and also wars. Which almost all the biota, starting from mangroves, seaweeds, and including all sort of biota and flora and fauna, were deadly affected by the marine pollution. Of course, the new generation pollutions are the plastic. Of course, we cannot say no to plastic because plastic is an inevitable part of our life. So the plastics, wherever you generate the plastics, it finally ends up through the river action, rainfall, so also aerosol falling, and also through the runoff, it reaches the ocean. And because of the particular pattern of the ocean circulation, it reaches the 30° and 30° south-north latitudes because of the particular ocean movement called as the gyres, where the the endangered species like turtles, they misunderstand this jellyfish as plastic and they ate it. And this has become a menace. And entangling of plastic organisms also causing a lot of problems. Of course, the most paramount one is the microplastic, that the plastics in the form of microbes that are entering into the food chain leads to many more disasters in the years to come. Radioactive and pesticide pollution, of course, this leads to mutation, carcinogenic, and recurrence of different types of cancers or tumors starting from toe to the all parts of the body. It leads to increased occurrence of infertility. The next problem is the sewage pollution, and the biological pollution leads to two major problems called as the antibiotic resistance. The bacteria become resistant to antibiotic called as the ABR, and the second itself the antimicrobial resistance. The microbes got a defense mechanism against the antibiotics. This is a major problem the world is going to face in the field of pharmacology and medicine. So because of understanding all these things, there were a series of conventions that came up, like the Oslo Convention, MARPOL, the Paris, and the OSPAR Convention, understanding the importance and difficulties and the havocs of the marine pollutions. The next major problem after pollution comes is the global warming and the sea level rise. Global warming and sea level rise are the buzzword of the day, which happens again due to the anthropogenic activities, due to more carbon emission, and the sea level is rising because the polar ice caps are melting. So also the ice caps in the Himalaya Alps Kilimanjaro mountains are all melting at a faster pace. This leads toward the sea level rise. If the present level of sea level rise is increasing, in another 50 to 70 years, major cities like Kochi were underwater. The next major problem the ocean facing is the ocean acidification. That means the pH, the saline pH or the alkaline pH is slowly dwindling back to acidic because of more rainfall, because of the sea level rise and all, because of polar ice caps melts. If the sea level rise and the ocean acidification increases, though in point 1, it has serious repercussions in the marine biodiversity and the ecosystem, leads to coral bleaching, decalcification of organisms and all. The next seventh major problem is the increased occurrence of natural resources. Previously, we hardly heard about cyclones in the Arabian Sea because cyclones are more prone to Bay of Bengal, but it's a closed bay. But now, Arabian Sea is warming at a faster pace because of carbon emission and other things, which is caused by anthropogenic, man-made activities, leads to frequent occurrence of cyclones, high wave in the Arabian Sea. Next, these are all the problems. Then coming to the solution to the problems and the pollutions. One is the best mantra is prevention is always better than the cure. The second is to follow the 3R principles, that is reduce, reuse and recycling. This is the mantra which we are following in almost all the fields, all the industries. The third one is the pollution treatment methods like the sewage treatment plants. Every company, every firm, every organization should have, it is mandatory that they should have an STPs, but most of the STPs are in paper because the running costs of the sewage treatment plants or the pollution treatment plants are a bit costly. That is why many companies are not running this at full sequence and they are letting the pollutants as such, leading to major problems. So the wastewater treatments itself should have all the three forms, like three steps like preliminary, primary, secondary and tertiary treatments, of which the secondary treatment including the activated sludge using microbes like the rotating biological contractors, the membrane bioreactors are very important. Next is the natural cleanup process by the nature. The nature has itself difficult mechanisms, so it will clean up. Second, by the introduction of barriers, booms where the pollution occurs. Third is the manual removal. Fourth is the passive collectant with the solvents, vacuuming, but of course these are all costly affairs. One way or other way it affects the ecosystems. The better one is enhancing the bioremediation through nutrient recharging and microbe seeding, for which bioremediation, it is the seed for the sustainable future. Bioremediation employing microbes, bioremediation employing fungi, so also the plants. So we have developed a bug called as a super bug called as the Pseudomonas pituita, which is fight well against the oil. So there lies the importance. So feature of bioremediation lies on the genetically modified organisms and microbes, especially the microbial remediation. Of course, plants are used for the phytoremediation purposes too. So the new buzzword is the aquatic restoration, which should be a good hope. Restoring the ecosystem through aquatic ecosystem, which has its own feature. And we have classical examples of eco-restoration like the Thames, Ganga Action Plan and all and all. And coming to the problems and solution we were over, and now to the conservation measures to restore what we lost. By nature itself, by conventional thoughts and beliefs, awareness programs, introduction of biosphere resource, fishing holidays, satellite oceanography, artificial propagation and sea granting. Look one by one a bit little. By nature itself, say for example, the biggest mangrove coverage is seen in the border of West Bengal and Bangladesh. We call it as the Sundarbans. This thick mangrove patch is protected by a single hero called as the Royal Bengal tiger. Because of the Royal Bengal tiger, though it looks very calm, but it's a very ferocious animal. People are afraid to venture into the mangroves and do the afforestation. By nature itself, there's a defense mechanism. By conventional thoughts, religious faith and beliefs. This is especially in Indian context, we venerated many organisms in the name of gods or as the vehicles of the gods. Say for example, here in the marine systems also, there is one crab, what you are seeing on the left is a Portunus pelagicus, which is considered as Hindus as a matter of veneration of Lord Shiva, as the Lord Shiva bears 3 eyes. Similarly, on crab called as the cross crab, what you are seeing at the center is a Charybdis ferriatus, which is having a cross on its carapace on the shell. Christians venerate this, they respect this. And for the Muslims, they respect a fish called as a Pomacanthus semicirculatus. On the tail, there resembles an Arabic letters called as Shani Allah, that means the warning from the goat, so they protect it. So this is by thoughts, religious faith, they protect the animals. by conservatory approaches or participatory approaches. For one example is what you're seeing on the backdrop is the largest fish in the world called as the Ringotonan typhus or the whale shark. This whale shark is native to Gujarat. From Gujarat coast, from the young stage it migrates to Australia, and once they become mature, and they will come back again, they migrate back to Australia for the purpose of laying the eggs, giving the young ones. That time what happens, it is heavily poached and it was overfished. By the way, its population was decimated and declined to a faster pace. Then came a saint called as Morari Bapu. He did a campaign called as Whale Shark campaign. What he told the people is that he licked the mind of the people by telling that this whale shark is the daughter of us. This daughter has been married to his husband who is residing in Australia. And she came back to India, to Gujarat, for giving birth to her young ones. How come we kill our own daughter who come to our own home to give birth to his young ones? This has worked. This licked the people and they started crying and they started rescuing this fish, and their population has increased. That is by conservatory and participatory approach. The next is by introduction of legal structures like biosphere reserves, marine parks and protected areas. We have many protected areas and biosphere parks. The giant one is what you are seeing in between the India and Sri Lanka is the Gulf of Mannar Biosphere Park, or the reserves, where we have so many illegal activities, illegal fishing activities were totally banned, and there were stringent measures which should be looked by the Indian administrative systems and its wings. Through the enforcement of laws and its enforcement, like introduction of sustainable fishing practices, mesh size regulation, fishing holidays like trawl ban, minimum legal size, each fish species should have a minimum legal size, and introduction of fish migratory pathways. And of course, to increase the alternate livelihood options such as the aquaculture, fish farming in the open sea called as open sea farming or mariculture. This has paramount importance. What I should say that this decade United Nations is declared as the United Nations decade for sustainable development, in which poverty and hunger eradication is the major milestone for which we have to look our own waters for increasing the fish production. Then by artificial propagation and sea ranching, a classical example is what you are seeing on the backdrop is a gentleman, my own professor, Professor K. Kadhiresan, who is called as a mangrove man by the United Nations. What he did is that in 1990s he cultivated mangroves and he put artificial propagules of mangroves in a river bank, in an estuary bank called as Vellar Estuary near Pondicherry. After 96, this mangroves, as you see, it slowly becomes stumps, it becomes plants, and by another 5 to 6 years it becomes a thick wooden mangrove forest for around 1 kilometer. So because of this, what happens? The fish population naturally increases, because mangroves are the breeding nursery and feeding grounds for many fishes. So because of introducing these mangroves, the mangroves grown, and this artificial mangroves becomes an artificially created mangrove thick dense forest, leads to increased fish production not only in the estuary but on the surrounding areas of the sea and the ocean. But the real help was realized when the tsunami was hit in 2004. The nearby villages were drowned by the tsunamis, were marooned by the tsunamis, but because of the artificially constructed mangrove wall, this wall acted as a savior and created 500 lives of the coastal populace. I repeat, 500 lives of coastal populace were saved because of the mangroves that were artificially created by the Professor Kadhiresan, and hats off to him. Similarly, coral reefs can be constructed. They can do the artificial propagation and sea ranching through the coral transplantation, which we are doing in many parts of the world. Then the next conservation measures is the application of satellite oceanography, that is remote sensing, and ocean modeling. This is the future, ocean modeling through remote sensing. Pollution management through top-down, from top to down through law, by community-based participatory approach, adaptive management system, and precautionary approaches. So don't be a frog in the well, come out of the shell and act. Please wake up, and it's time to act, because we citizens, we are not all common citizens, we are called as the citizen scientists, the common public, the administrators, the academicians. We have a greater responsibility in conserving and protecting and enhancing our own coastal biodiversity, and marine ecosystems. At the end, I always tell, save ocean, ocean will save us. Protect ocean, ocean will protect us. Learn from ocean, earn from ocean. Ocean lives forever. Let its love forever. Jai Hind, all the best. Thank you.